Welcome to Mystara, where today we are looking at one of the least known but most powerful villains in the entire setting, the Vermilion Dragon known as Pyre. Found in one of the last books created for Mystara, the Orcs' Peninsula, he is one of the nastiest draconic creatures in all of Dungeons & Dragons, a neutral evil mastermind with a malediction addiction. And while he's a latecomer to the Savage Coast, he more than makes up for it in size and malice. I'm Mr. Welch, and today we are looking at the second most dangerous creature to the Mystara, right after CenturyLink. As this is a Mystara book, there's going to be continuity problems, and right off the bat, we've got two names for the same type of dragon. In the Orcs' Peninsula book, Pyre is referred to as a Vermilion Dragon several times. In fact, the word crimson only appears once describing the color of a specific banner. While in the Savage Coast Monstrous Compendium, his type of dragon are called Crimson Dragons, and the word Vermilion is only used to describe a type of ooze. So for clarity's sake, I'm going to call Pyre a Vermilion Dragon because that's what he's called in his own book. But Crimson and Vermilion Dragons are the exact same type of dragon. Since none of the writers of either book worked on the other book, and the Odyssey line was definitely not a priority for the powers that be in 2006, I'm chalking this one up to the lack of a continuity editor, but giving them a pass because completing these books were a labor of love by people who just wanted to get their work into the hands of fans. Pyre was only ever mentioned in the Orcs' Peninsula book, again released in 2006, as part of the Odyssey line of books, which was released long after the demise of TSR. You can get the book for free from the Vaults of Pandius. Just Google Orcs' Peninsula PDF, and it's the first result. You also need to get the Savage Coast Monstrous Compendium for his actual stats, but that's for free on the Vaults as well. Don't go paying for these books on the Dungeon Master's Guide, because they were given out for free by Wizards of the Coast all those years ago to the Vaults. They want $5 for a free PDF on the Guild. Don't do it. I'll link the Vault's location in the description. Charging for free stuff you previously handed out online isn't cool, Watsy. Back to Pyre. Basic rundown of his ability so you don't have to go back and look at the dragons of the Savage Coast is he's a venerable dragon, so skip down to the third from the bottom of the chart size. The shtick of the Vermilion Dragons is if they use their breath weapons, it depletes a creature's cerebral, and then they have a chance of gaining a legacy. While Pyre's stats are never officially given, he does have 8 legacies that are mentioned, but you can feel free to add more if you want. He suffers no drawbacks from any of the legacies, and he never mutates even without cerebral. Physically, he's around 125 feet long. His color is so dark red that he almost appears black in faint light. Vermilion dragons have a strong resemblance to the red dragons, being mutated back when the red curse first appeared. Again, its breath weapon is a long cone of red dust that does no damage, but is one of the most devastating weapons in the Savage Coast, as it depletes all cerebral within its area of effect, with every cerebral object destroyed in this way giving the dragon a cumulative 3% chance of gaining a new legacy. As you can expect, Pyre is not a very popular creature in the Red Steel setting. He rules over the Orcs of the Dark Jungle, located south of the Arania nation of Harath and the Man-Scorpion nation of Namur. This nation is located outside of the cursed Red Coast, but Harath does have a few spots that are contaminated by its curse, and those are Pyre's primary hunting grounds. Multiple orc tribes live in the Dark Jungle, and they're notable for dyeing their skin an even darker shade of green. They half fear and half worship Pyre, giving him a portion of all their loot while returning from raids. He does not tolerate intertribal warfare. The orcs are to attack only those outside their territory. Minor raids between tribes are allowed, but open conflict gets the rival chiefs grabbed by an angry dragon who lets the tribes pick a new, less idiotic chief. Pyre is not a passive ruler in regards to the orcs. Yes, he takes a portion of their treasure, their slaves, and their food every month, but he will also plan their future and the nature of their raids. When he feels it's time, he will send for the chiefs of all the orc tribes in the Dark Jungle and present them with a new target for their raids, as well as detailed instructions on how to attack and the forces required of each tribe. He explains his plans to the orcs in terms they can understand, so there is no confusion when the raids begin. His plans are well thought out with a high success rate. The orc chiefs never cross him or defy him, as not only is he more than a match for entire tribes, but the orcs do benefit greatly from his leadership. While he demands a large amount of tribute from them, the orcs also realize they benefit from his rule. Pyre was once a powerful red dragon before becoming a Vermilion Dragon, putting him between 800 to 1,000 years old. He began eating large quantities of cerebral once the material began manifesting due to the 3-part curse, and the mineral changed him into one of the first Vermilion Dragons, if not the first. He established himself in the nation of Robran, where he became quite infamous and was sought out by an ancient king who wanted to slay the beast once and for all. Pyre did win that combat, killing the king but losing an eye in the process. Realizing in his injured state he was vulnerable to the next adventurer to seek him out, he decided to flee. But before he left, he raided a druid stronghold and stole an artifact known as the Ebon Eye. The eye could turn victims into ebony statues, a power he uses to punish wayward orc chiefs. The Ebon Eye is also one of the most sacred artifacts to the local druids, and they have sent more than one knight to recover it from the dragon. Obviously none have succeeded, and very few have even returned. He does possess a large number of magic items, the most important being a scrying crystal in the form of a 5-pointed star that he employs to keep track of the man-scorpions and Aranea that border his nation. With the difficulty of scrying in areas stricken with the Red Coast, having a powerful object like this gives him an advantage in a region few can match. His other valued item is a hat of disguise, which lets him assume the shape of a humanoid creature and wander around in cities unnoticed. He will use this hat to investigate rumors of new Cinebril mines or caravans with large amounts of the mineral. Once he's located the Cinebril, he will return in dragon form and lay waste to the owners before settling down for a meal. He will often do this in tandem with an orc attack to throw off any suspicion of the true cause of the attack, making sure not to leave any survivors. Pyre's greatest and most immediate foe is the Aranea of Harath. He actively hunts for their few Cinebril deposits, or any one of their wizards that have managed to acquire related magic items. He knows their secret, and he really doesn't care. All that bothers him is the acquisition of more Cinebril, and can't be bothered to give a second thought to what the self-obsessed spider folk think. They're beneath him, and he remembers the stories of the dragon war against him. Not that he cares about ancient grudges between the dragons and the spider folk, but he uses their foe against dragons when he attacks. He doesn't try to mislead them when he does lead a raid, dropping clues that would lead them to other Vermilion Dragons in case they feel the need to retaliate. More often than not, he just leaves no survivors and lets the orcs take the blame for his attack. With scrying being a difficulty due to the curse, the Aranea have not been able to detect him regardless. Pyre does possess a large number of slaves, and puts them to use in mining precious metals and gems, as well as the rare Cinebril deposit when one is discovered. Being a slave to Pyre is a death sentence, as he works the slaves non-stop and just has the orcs replace any losses during their raids. His lair is hidden deep in the jungle, and not even the orcs know of its true location. They can summon him if they have information for him, and he will summon the tribes into a central location when needed. His treasure hoard is the stuff of legend, but first you have to find it, then get through hundreds of loyal orcs, and finally defeat a thrice-cursed dragon who doesn't seem to be all that cursed. As Pyre is possibly the most powerful creature on the Savage Coast, he has gained the attention of multiple immortals that either value his usefulness or want him dead. Talitha, patron of thieves, is known as Ait Tha on the Peninsula, and she enjoys nothing more than causing troubles with the man-scorpions of Namur. Not out of hatred toward them, she just enjoys how upset they get when their precious artifacts turn up missing. She gains information on the location of the artifacts from Pyre, and sends her thieves to collect them. On the other hand, there is the orc immortal Karash, or Inavel as he calls himself locally. He wants the orcs of the Dark Jungle free from any ruler other than an orc, so tries to get the orcs to rise up against their overlord. Not just Pyre, but the slavers in Harath and Namur as well. The problem, of course, is that Pyre can wipe out entire tribes on his own without even trying, and Karash has no desire to get the orcs slaughtered in a futile revolution. So he provides assistance to the Order of the Ebon Eye, a knightly order established by Robrin to retrieve the lost artifact. He doesn't actually expect them to slay Pyre and regain the artifact, but he does hope that they can possibly injure him and the orcs can finish Pyre off. The knights have no idea who their unknown patron is, but consider the visions they get a sign that they have the immortal blessing. Pyre is not content with the few tribes that he has under his control. To the west, there's 3 orc tribes that represent the smaller groups that fled the Dark Jungle decades ago, and they settled in areas contested by other races, including the ER and the Induk. The orcs here do not enjoy the success as their southern cousins, but they also don't live under the tyranny of a dragon. But that may change as Pyre's emissaries have attempted to bring the western orcs under his control, pointing out the successes that he brings to the tribes that swear allegiance to him. The western tribes have refused the offer so far, and Pyre has yet to respond to their reluctance to join him. He's not showing them mercy, instead he's just busy with other schemes and hasn't gotten around to the western tribes yet. When he does, he's going to let them know that his offer wasn't optional. Pyre is obviously the big bad of the Orcs' Head Peninsula. No other single creature can match him in power, and he's got a lot of enemies. The Aranea want him dead for stealing their Cinebril and raiding their towns. The nation of Robrin has an entire knightly order devoted to killing him. The Nemurians despise the orcs for their constant raids, and by extension Pyre himself, even though they haven't grasped the fact that the orcs are led by a dragon. Pyre's raids into distant lands to steal Cinebril has made him enemies of people that aren't even aware of his true identity. To fight him, you first have to discover who he actually is, then second, try and find out where he's located. The problem, of course, is that he's really good at covering his tracks, and being surrounded by hundreds if not thousands of loyal orc warriors means you're going to have to cleave your way to get to him. He's not meant to be a throwaway encounter. He's there to serve as a long-term nemesis to the characters, and a mysterious one at that. He's got spells, legacies, and all of his normal draconic goodness. And he's got legions of minions. You could create an entire campaign around defeating him, which would be made a lot more interesting if you used the Orcs of Thar to create humanoid characters that would ultimately rebel against him. Now we close out the second book of topics from my notebook, heading to the Hollow World to look at the Ostut gnomes and their crazy flying machines. But until then, come on baby, light my pyre.